Hello and welcome. Let us discuss this question that came in the year 2018 and is related to the topic environmental legislation. The question is, consider the following statements. Number 1, the definition of critical wildlife habitat is incorporated in the Forest Rights Act 2006. Number 2, for the first time in India, beggars have been given habitat rights. Number 3, Union Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change officially decides and declares habitat rights for primitive and vulnerable tribal groups in any part of India. Now let us see Forest Rights Act, habitat rights and PVTGs or primitive, which is now known as particularly vulnerable tribal communities or groups. If we see Forest Rights Act, then the original name of the act is Scheduled Tribe and Other Forest Dwellers Recognition of Rights Act of 2006. As far as scheduled tribe is concerned, scheduled tribe consists of 8.5% of the total population of the country. 8.5% of the total population, and there are 705 scheduled tribes. Now, special protection is given as far as scheduled tribes are concerned, but some tribes are primitive in scheduled tribes also. So, in 1973, on the advice of Devar Commission, 53 communities were organized as PTGs, that is primitive tribal groups, and later these were converted into PVTGs, that is particularly vulnerable tribal groups, and now 75 PVTGs are considered as part of these 705 scheduled tribes. So out of 705, 75 are particularly vulnerable tribal groups. Now what is the criteria to recognize them? They have basically simple technology. They use simple technology. That is, they are not that much advanced. They have low population. They are homogeneous in nature. Usually they are homogeneous. They have no written language. And they are dependent on forest produce like other. But they are particularly vulnerable as far as other scheduled tribes are concerned. So PVTGs basically have these criteria. So now if we see this first statement, that is critically wildlife habitat. Critically wildlife habitat is created in protected area, that is sanctuaries or national park, inside sanctuaries or national park. They are created inside sanctuaries or national park. What happens is there is no habitat permission in national parks, but these are created for forest rights of scheduled tribes or other forest dwelling communities. So this CWH is created under Forest Rights Act 2006. This statement is correct and the definition is given in Forest Rights Act. This area should be inviolative of wildlife protection, inviolative of the habitat should not impact wildlife protection. Habitat right should not impact. Second statement is also correct because for the first time in India, Baigas have been given the habitat rights. Third statement is incorrect because Ministry of Tribal Affairs is the nodal ministry as far as habitat rights are concerned. So if we see critical wildlife habitat, then they are under Forest Rights Act. The definition is also given under this. Nodal ministry is Ministry of Tribal Affairs, and such areas are required to be kept as inviolative for the purposes of wildlife conservation. And also these are based on the scientific and objective study that whether the communities required habitat rights as far as these protected areas are concerned. Protected areas like sanctuaries and national park. So there, whether there should be settlement or not is decided by Ministry of Tribal Affairs on the basis of scientific study. If we see similar question related to Forest Rights Act, then the question is under the Scheduled Tribes and Other Forest Dwellers Recognition of Forest Right Act 2006, who shall be the authority to initiate the process for determining the nature and extent of individual or community forest rights or both? First, State Forest Department. Second, District Collector or Deputy Commissioner. C, Tehsildar, Block Development Officer, Mandal Revenue Officer, or D, Gram Sabha. So the answer for this question is Gram Sabha, because what Gram Sabha does is under chapter 4 of FRA, Gram Sabha is the authority to initiate the process for determining the nature and extent of individual or community forest rights or both. First stage is Gram Sabha does voting that whether there is a requirement for an individual or a community to be given forest rights, then that is transferred under sub-block level or sub-block committee level, then that is transferred to the district level, and then that is transferred to the State Forest Department level or state level. So the first stage is done by Gram Sabha. Hence the answer for this, that is the recognition, is done by D. The authority to initiate the process is D, Gram Sabha, on the basis of the requirement of forest dwelling communities. Because what happens if the area comes under protected area networks, then various activities are not permitted. So the forest rights of these forest dwelling committees are restricted. So to provide them permission to do such activities, this act is implemented.